Hey everyone, great to connect with you again today. Beginning this Sunday, December 18th, and continuing through Sunday, January 8th, we'll be meeting on Sunday mornings for one worship service at 10 o'clock. Kids Connect and Discipleship Hour will not be meeting during these 4 Sundays, and the 10 o'clock service will be streamed. This Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Advent, I'll preach about the angel's appearance to the shepherds in Luke chapter 2, and jolly good news in our ordinariness. I also want to remind you that this Sunday afternoon at 4, we're gathering in the church for our annual carol sing. This is an opportunity to sing your favorite Christmas carols. And if you play an instrument, even if you haven't played it for a while, come a little early, bring your instrument, join the orchestra that plays as we sing. And if you're able, bring a dozen or so of cookies or treats to share at the fellowship time afterwards. Through the years, I've enjoyed many of the Christmas stories that have been published by Guidepost magazine. But some of them are my favorites. I thought that today I would share one of these favorites with you. It was 11 p.m. Christmas Eve of 1949. Elizabeth English and her husband Herman finally locked their store and dragged themselves home to South Caldwell Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. They were dog-tired. Theirs was one of those big old general appliance stores that sold everything from refrigerators and toasters and record players to bicycles and dollhouses and games. They'd sold almost all of their toys, and all of the layaways, except one package, had been picked up. Usually she and Herman kept the store open until everything had been picked up. They knew they wouldn't have arisen very happy on Christmas morning knowing that some little child's gift was back on the layaway shelf. But the person who had put $1 down on that package never appeared. Early Christmas morning, they were out under the tree opening their gifts with their 12-year-old son, Tom. There was something very humdrum about this Christmas. As soon as breakfast was over, Tom left to visit his friend next door. Herman disappeared in the bedroom saying, "I'm going back to sleep. There's nothing left to stay up for anyway." And so there she was alone, doing the dishes, feeling pretty let down. It was nearly 9 o'clock, and sleet mixed with snow cut the air outside. The wind rattled the windows, and she felt grateful for the warmth of their apartment. Sure glad I don't have to go out on a day like today, she thought to herself. And then it began. Something she'd never experienced before. A strange, persistent urge. Go to the store. She looked at the icy sidewalk outside. "It's crazy," she said to herself. She tried dismissing the thought, but it wouldn't leave her alone. Go to the store. Well, she wasn't going to go. She'd never gone to the store on Christmas Day in the 10 years that they'd owned it. No one opened their store on that day. And there wasn't any reason to go. She didn't want to, and she wasn't going to. And for an hour, she fought that strange feeling, and finally she couldn't stand it any longer, and she got dressed. "Herman, I think I'll walk down to the store." "Whatever for? What are you going to do there?" "Oh, I don't know. Not much to do here. I just think I'll wander down there." And he argued with her a little and told him she was crazy, but he said, "Go on, but I don't see any reason for it." She put on her gray wool coat and gray tam on her head and galoshes and red scarf and gloves, but once outside, none of those things seemed to help. The wind cut right through her and the sleet stung her cheeks. She groped her way along the mile trip, slipping and sliding all the way. She felt ridiculous. She had no business being out in that weather. There was the store just ahead. The sign announced radio, electronics, sales, and service, and the big glass windows jutted out onto the sidewalk. But what in the world? In front of the store stood 2 little boys huddled together, one about 9, the other about 6. "Here she comes," yelled the older one. "See, I told you she would come." They were half frozen. The younger one's face was wet with tears, but when he saw her, his eyes opened wide and his sobbing stopped. "What are you 2 children doing out here in this freezing rain?" as she hurried them into the store and turned up the heat. "You should be at home on a day like this." They were poorly dressed. They had no hats or gloves. Their shoes barely held together. She rubbed their small icy hands and got them up close to the heater. "We've been waiting for you," replied the older. "They've been standing outside since 9 o'clock. "Why were you waiting for me?" "My little brother Jimmy didn't get any Christmas. We want to buy some skates. That's what he wants. And we have $3, see?" She looked at the dollars in his hand. She looked at their expectant faces, and then she looked around the store. I'm sorry, but we've sold everything and we don't have any. And then her eye caught sight of that layaway shelf with its one lone package. She tried to remember, could it be? Wait a minute. She walked over, picked up the package, unwrapped it, and miracle of miracles, there was a pair of skates. Lord, she said silently, let them be his size. And miracle added upon miracle, they were his size. When the older boy finished tying up the laces on Jimmy's right foot and saw that the skates fit perfectly, he stood up and presented the dollars to her. I'm not going to take your money. I want you to have these skates, and I want you to use your money to get some gloves for your hands. The two boys blinked at first. Then their eyes became like saucers, and their grins stretched wide as they understood that she was just giving them the skates, that she didn't want their $3. After the children had warmed up, she turned down the heater and they walked out together. As she locked the door, she turned to the older brother and said, Boy, it's awfully lucky that I happened to come down today. If you'd stood there much longer, you'd have frozen. But how did you know I would come? His gaze was steady, and he answered her softly. Oh, I knew you would come because I asked Jesus to send you. Father, thank you for the lessons we learn from children. Fill us with the kind of faith that believes you're at work even when it seems you aren't. Amen. Thanks again for joining me. Have a wonderful day.